Part 2, Rules of the Road by C.B. Jones. It wasn't long before I discovered there were different versions of the mysterious broadcast. I had initially believed that there was only the strange and singular episode and that it was the same for each listener. However, a new individual contacted me and discussed his experience. It differed completely from what we had encountered before. Chapter 2, Operator. Brandon was a guy in his 20s who currently lived in Sacramento. He spoke with me over the phone about how he had heard the broadcast and how it affected him. There were the same common denominators. He was alone in his car, it was late at night, and he had been driving for hours when he encountered the program. There's not really a whole lot of backstory. I was driving home from my buddy's bachelor party in Tahoe, a low-key thing at the swanky cabin he rented for the weekend. Bunch of guys, a lot of boozing, a little hiking, some catching up. Anyways, I was driving home, it was late at night, and I was listening to the radio. Even with all the technology available at our fingertips, I still like to listen to it from time to time. I don't mind the commercials, and I like the random nature of it. It seems more real, you know? That and my data plan kind of sucks, and I'm trying to cut costs where I can. The good thing about the radio is you can always find a Tom Petty song out there if you look hard enough. That's what I had found. When out of nowhere, there was this burst of static. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard, almost musical. It was so mesmerizing that I didn't bother changing the station. Then this voice started talking. Howdy, folks. Buck Hensley here with more Rules of the Road. Hope y'all are doing well out there and that you're nice and cozy in your big trucks and SUVs as the cold night whizzes past. Hope your seat warmer starts working again. Nothing like a nice warm ass on a cold winter's night. I really miss my wife and cuddling up next to hers. How I would call in sick to work some days just to spend those few extra hours in bed with her. How I often wanted to live in that half-awake moment with her forever, but nothing lasts, and I can't get back there. At this point, I laughed at the surreal hilarity of the radio program that had preempted the song I was listening to. However, I was a little unnerved by a single detail within the opening monologue. The seat warmer in my Jeep was broken. I listened on, transfixed. Whoops, sorry. Got a little off track there. Anyways, on to tonight's rule. If at any point in your journey you get a call from an unknown number, then you must answer your phone. You must take that call. Don't ignore it. Don't screen it. And don't wait for it to go to voicemail thinking that you might call it back because you won't be able to. It is imperative that you pick up. Now, I know what you're thinking. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Bucky, what if it's another one of them goddamn robocallers? I get those all the time, and I ignore them, and they're just the biggest waste of time, and I've been waiting for a call back on an interview, and I've been answering unknown numbers, and I get those calls warning me about my vehicle's warranty expiring, and it's a scam, and they just make me so darn mad I could scream. Like hell, am I going to answer another one of those calls? And to that I say, fair enough. I get why you're so upset. Those calls get me hot under the collar, too. Why do they even call them robocallers anyways? Is there a robot on the other end dialing away with his little metal robot fingers? Bleep, bloop, bleep. But I digress. I wish I had a passenger in the car with me. You know, someone to exchange confused and amused looks with. Someone to ask, are you hearing this shit? Google this and see what it is. So, the first thing you must do is to answer the call. Make sure your phone's on loud. Make sure you hear the ring, because if you miss it, that is no bueno. Once you answer, you might hear that dead air and clicking you get in your usual telemarketer call. You might hear some strange noises. You might hear something that's downright spooky. Just hang on a second and wait for the voice. A nice, pleasing, monotone woman's voice asking you your name. I like to call her Clara. Carla. She'll ask you your name. State your given name. Carla will respond that there's been some unusual activity on your card account and that she needs the number on your credit or debit card to further research the activity and put a stop to it. This will sound sketchy as hell to you. Where was I before I was so rudely interrupted? All right. Carla will respond that there's been some unusual activity on your card account and that she needs the number on your credit or debit card to further research the activity and put a stop to it. This will sound sketchy as hell to you, and you'll probably feel the urge to hang up and tell her to buzz off. But if you do, then you'll miss your chance. Once you give her your card information, do not fret. The folks on the other end of the line ain't going to clean you out. They're really looking out for you and have your best interest at heart. The most you'll see is $1 or $2 here and there pulled off your account every month. It'll show up on your bank statements. That's like a cup of coffee a month you're missing out on, but it's totally worth it. What's the value of $1? That might be the most valuable dollar of your life. Okay, so you say, to heck with all of this. Well, let me tell you what'll happen. As far as punishments go, with this one, you might actually have a good fighting chance, and it actually makes quite a good PSA for safe driving. From then on, after receiving the call, whether you've answered and didn't give your number or ignored it altogether, the next time you pick up your phone while driving, it'll result in a deadly motor vehicle collision. It doesn't matter if you're on America's loneliest highway without another vehicle for miles. I'm telling you, do not pick up that phone. Do not text. Do not make a call. Do not adjust your Spotify playlist. Let that hunk of plastic and copper and platinum and gold and terbium lie. Turn it off and throw it in the back seat if you have to. You'll get your complacement. You will get complacent. You will get comfortable and you will forget. Just a quick buzz and you glance down at the phone, or you take a quick peek at your GPS because you're not sure when your exit's coming up, and blammo! That'll be all she wrote. A semi from nowhere will appear in a bend in the road that wasn't there before. A sheet of ice on a sultry summer day. The horizon will turn upside down as your vehicle careens across a landscape. You ever seen what happens to a vehicle that goes underneath the semi-truck's wheels? Think about what happens to the body. I don't even know if you can call it a body at that point. The parts are all there, but they don't seem to add up. And your face? Think about what will happen to your face. We're wired to see faces, don't you see? 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. Our minds are drawn to them in our environment from birth, seeking that connection. Your mom, your sister, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. They'd do anything to see your face one more time, even if it's lifeless and a little bloated and a little too made up by the mortician. Your family will take seeing that semblance, that mediocre representation of the face they once loved, as a means of closure. But they won't be able to, because that thing above your shoulders cannot be called a face at that point. And all the king's horses and all the king's mortuary men cannot put your broken eggshell, runny yolk face back together again, and you'll have a closed casket. Your loved ones will have to imagine it. Well, that's all for tonight. Hope y'all warmed up a bit and got your phones where you can reach them. Stay alert out there. Stay lively. Stay lonely. Once again, I'm Bug Hensley, and these are the rules of the road. I was shaken to my core. At first, I felt a little silly getting so spooked by the broadcast, but I was on a dark highway all by myself in the middle of the night. I pulled off at the nearest truck stop, went inside a bit, drank some water, and returned to my vehicle. 5 miles down the road, my phone rang. I didn't know what to do. There was a sudden concern that it was all a trick, that if I picked up my phone, I'd end up in a deadly car accident. I hesitated. The phone rang again, making sure I kept my eyes on the road. I reached for my smartphone with a trembling arm and answered. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a click, then a wall of noise. It took me a second to distinguish all the wailing sounds stacked on top of each other. All the wailing sounds. Okay. I was just thinking it sounds like hell, and then I got lost in the book. Hold on. I had been to funerals before, grandparents and older family members, and the funeral of a friend that had died too young, a beloved teacher from my grade school that had gotten cancer. These sounds were the sounds from those funerals, the inexplicable grief that could only be expressed in loud wails and sobs, the cursing of the heavens and the asking of why. And they were all happening at once, right here on my phone in my ear. I heard the woman's voice suddenly appear on the other line. She cut in through the awful sounds as they faded into the background. Please state your name. I gave her my name. We've noticed some unusual activity on your credit card. To verify your age and investigate this further, we need you to provide the 16-digit credit card number, expiration date, and CVV number. Please provide these now. I was at a loss. I had the sudden thought that there was a rogue broadcast out there in this part of the country getting gullible people to listen to the warning and then hitting them with the call. Some sort of scam. But then I imagined my family in some church, the images and sounds of their grief. I could always cancel the credit card. I veered toward the shoulder, leaning on my left side to reach the wallet in my back pocket. Are you there, Brandon? voice asked. Please provide the numbers now. I was getting frantic. A patch of gravel forced me into a skid, my car heading off the side of the road. I dropped the phone and gripped the steering wheel, guided myself to safety. It took me several minutes to find my phone on the floorboards, and when I did, the caller had disappeared. It has been both a blessing and a curse. I've become something of a Luddite now. I never turn my cell phone off when I'm driving. I never turn my cell phone on when I'm driving. I actually always place it in the trunk. At first, I thought I could deal with it by just leaving it turned off and in the passenger seat. But during these notorious gridlocked California traffic jams, I feel myself absent-mindedly reaching toward it. I've also stopped carrying it around as much. My attention span seems better now. I feel more focused. Every time I go out, I can't help but notice how everyone's so glued to their phones, how addicted everyone is. Sometimes I miss out on some last-minute changes of plans, and I show up to the wrong restaurant. Or there are times when I arrive at a friend's apartment when they've already made secondary arrangements for transportation, and they've tried to call me while I was on my way. I have to print out directions for places ahead of time. I've gotten lost on several occasions. Not having my cell phone available has caused several unnecessary fights between me and my girlfriend. You're the only one I've told about this experience. Nobody else would even believe me. Even worse, they might try and convince me it was all in my head. I don't want to get too comfortable and deny my experience and forget about what can happen if I don't follow the rule. I've been going to a cabin an hour outside of Tahoe on any free weekend that I can. It's secluded and remote. Up on the mountain, there's no cell phone service, and I don't get the fear of missing out. I couldn't get a call even if I wanted to. When I'm up there, I feel at peace. I checked in with Brandon a month later, but he didn't respond to my emails. Weeks passed, and I tried calling multiple times. The phone always went straight to voicemail, and he never called me back despite the voice messages. I had some growing concerns about a large wildfire that was in the news over in that area. I wasn't too familiar with the region, but it seemed awfully close to the general whereabouts of his cabin. Through some digging, I got a hold of his girlfriend, Lacey. We spoke on the phone. I hate to tell you this, but Brandon's dead. I was quiet for a while. When he hadn't responded, of course, I had that fear. Hearing it confirmed was still a punch in the gut. What happened? I asked, fearing the cause of death was a car accident. It was that damn phone, she said. He wouldn't pick up. He was so hard to get a hold of all the time. I didn't understand why he cared so much about safety all of a sudden. I mean, we all do, and it is a risk, but he took it to the extreme. Lacey, what is it? Did he die in a car wreck? It was a wildfire. He was up in his family's cabin for his decompression time. I wasn't feeling up for it that weekend, and my sister's birthday get-together was going on. It wasn't anything for him to go up there alone. When we saw how bad the fire was getting, we tried to get a hold of him, but of course there was no answer. It was heading straight for him. Doesn't the Forest Service or firefighters order an evacuation and go door to door? Yes, and they did. He finally called us from a landline at the convenience store in town down the mountain, said he was heading back and that it was really getting bad, but that he couldn't contact us from the road. We learned from the news updates that the pass he usually took had a shift in winds and the fire was overtaking the road. He would have to take a different route or he was going to get burned alive. But how could we let him know? Her voice cracked. I gave her time, a knot in my stomach. Finally, we got a call from him. He had pulled over and gotten his phone out from his trunk, told us the pass was awful. Walls of flames everywhere. He could feel the heat in the car. He was so scared. I could hear it in his voice. She was full on crying now. Luckily, we could tell him to turn around, go the other way, and take the alternate route. We were both so relieved to get in touch with each other. He said he was going to hang up, that he'd be in touch soon. She sniffled, catching her breath some. She was calming back down. After a few minutes later, I sent him a message, an I love you text. I just wanted him to know. He never made it home. There was silence. I'm so sorry, I said. It's strange. They found his car wedged into this boulder, completely demolished. There wasn't a single burn mark on the vehicle. Somehow the fire had burnt an entire area all around him, but didn't even touch his body. I just hope he got my text. I just hope he knew. Bitches. All right, I'm stopping there. I'll do another one. Probably, I don't know, tomorrow or... But there's 2 for you. I love you, Jaden. Mwah.